Good morning, traders. It's E from MarketWizards.com. About 11 o'clock Sunday morning, Mother's Day, 12th of May, 2024. Already done breakfast, cooked for my wife, took our walk. Thought it'd take just a couple of minutes to review a few things and take it from there. This is obviously a policy to make sure we all know to use risk capital we can afford to lose, and I like to remind everybody of that. All right. I want to address something that yesterday I had a little interaction with Pax, super trader, somebody I really respect and admire. Um, but I want to point out a few things that, first of all, I was trying to address, and then take it from there and show it not only with the ES, but with the NQ, because he was referring to the ES. So I'll just show a couple of charts with that. But I've been trading the NQ, and so I want to do this really for the traders I'm working with so they understand where I was coming from. So first of all, we must acknowledge everybody has different techniques and strategies and bankrolls and levels of risk that they really adhere to, and certain trades that are their favorite. And I think he misunderstood my question, which basically was, if you're going to find something that's consistent and repeatable and scalable, what is it? What trade is it that you really like? And from his response, my guess is that the Orbo is his favorite and the one that he just works off of, and that's the key to his day. So I acknowledge that. I respect his opinion, but I don't necessarily agree with it for myself. And you have to make your own decision. And we'll talk about a couple of things as we go through this. So here's your 30 seconds, and we come out the top. Obviously, we first do a little shake at the bottom, and then we come out the top. We come into news event, and at the news event, bang, we get a reversal that tests the bottom. We get the bounce. Slope line does not get beat, and we come back down, and we continue down to the 10:30 time slot, get a bounce, profit taking, can't come back up into Orbo, and comes back down one more leg, and 11 o'clock ish. We're trying to find a bottom. We get another low coming into lunch, and here basically the day holds itself, and then we get a little double and a bounce. And obviously, as the rest is history, and the end of the day sell-off. So if we go to, and you can, once you do that with your chart, by the way, you can set this at anything you want. So if I want to go back here and change that to say a 5-minute chart, once I lock and load it, then I can see it from different perspectives. And we can see really how we take out the rain line here and come down sub rain line and come back. And so you can see a lot more territory. And that's why I do want to switch between 30 seconds to larger time frames. So on the 3-minute, we now have a little bit higher. And for my taste, I want to see not only the 30-second going in a directional move, but also the 3 to confirm it. And that gives me obviously you lose some territory, but you're also starting to read the tape and you're starting to get a feel for which way it's going. And in this case, obviously going away from gaps, and then we get the reversal trade. And once we come through here, in my opinion, this obviously is a signal that, okay, we're wrong going long. We need to be going short and searching for support. And if we do this with a larger time frame, a 12-minute, some people use 15, whatever. I've studied some great traders over the years, and they've been kind enough and generous enough, like Pax and like Fari Hamzei, who has been more than generous, sharing their ideas and things they've learned. So I know that Fari likes the 12-minute frame as a confirmation, and so in terms of my strategy, I want to see that 30-second, get a 3-minute directional move. And with a 3-minute move, then the assumption is, okay, this is an angel, not a demon, and it wants to go long once we come out the top. Uh, my belief is, and certainly not every time, but a lot of times you've given up a lot of territory in your swing by waiting for that 12 minutes. So my strategy typically is make sure I'm paid something coming into that 12-minute mark. That and then obviously you want to work around news, and if you're flat for news, then you can react and you can see which direction it's going. So for me personally, I like to incorporate both their strategies and then use the 3-minute to really give me an edge. And because I want to know that I'm going with the direction the big boys are taking it. So I'm going to switch over to NQ for a minute, but same basic strategies are going to apply. All right, we're looking at a 30-second chart, NQ. And here is the opening battle. Gets won really by, in my interpretation, the long side. And we had targets at the paid for sure coming into the 320 to 330. And there were reasons for that, but basically at 320 and a quarter, we have a frame shift where we go into, you have to reset the charts for higher values as long as you stay above 322. And if not, then we fall back into the prior frame. And that's exactly what happened here. So we had targets coming into that 330 paid for sure. And then anything above that, I said, was gravy, in my opinion. And don't forget, we've got news coming. Now, part of this is because it was Friday. We'd had, a good size drive to the long side, and I was looking for profit taking at some point in the day by the longs, and just never know when it's going to come. So your major targets are hit. If you go flat for news, then of course you have the opportunity to jump in the directional move that it's going. And once we revert back down to a VWAP, we can't get above the slope line, and then it's lights out coming back in, obviously for the morning. And we had a major target of paid for sure, 203. These are just set in stone. We already know these levels that are important in our work. And in this chart, that 281 was actually our pivot for the day. Above it, it favored longs, below it favored shorts. So this last drive, I'd say paid for short 203s, and this is obviously a reversal. I said we've reversed Orbo. All three Orbos have reverse. So we're looking for the short side to search for support. And then we had this 83 pivot, a sub pivot in here. I said, I think we're done. I just think that it's time for the shorts to cover. You don't have to go long, you don't want to, but I think you should be paid for sure. And then if we get above and stay above the 203 mark, it would seem to me that the low is in, and we're going to bounce and probably test the 40 and a quarters, right? We knew that because that was the prior day's high. And then in trying to get to, and the bias at that point is really, in my opinion, trying to buy longs, trying to go back and do the 456 trade. Can we test the middle, which was going to be back into that 60 area to 68 max, paid for sure. And so as the day progresses, you have to continually flip-flop your thinking. Do I want the longs or the shorts? And truthfully, you could play either way in the afternoon based on the dynamics. But it turns out that the longs actually had a better trade as a bounce, but it was a contra against the day's range. If we switch over to the 3-minute chart, clearly can see that same dynamic. Get out of the 30-second range, take out the 95s, then we peak out coming 32s. And you want to get paid there in 20s to 30s. And then we have the lights out trade, the double, and then obviously another double in here. just above 203, and then we get to scoot back in here. So you want to see different time frames to put this into perspective. And if we went back to the last chart and actually went to like a 5-minute chart, and well, actually 10, maybe it was 10. I think it was the 10-minute chart. Yeah, we got the 10-minute chart. Pretty good rhythm in here. Can't stay below it. Want to put a 5 on. You'll see we're over and under. It tells you much more neutral. And I think the ES was probably the 10-minute that I had noticed. Yeah, 10-minute here on ES. So hit your, and you're always scanning to see where is my rain line, where's my support. So the 10-minute chart was absolutely perfect on on ES. And again, there's so many different ways to trade. I'm not looking for the first 30 seconds tell me what I'm going to do with my day. I'm looking for it as a guide, and that's the point of what I'm trying to share here. Is that there's so many styles, and for me, I want the best odds trades. I'm up here at what turns out to be standard deviation 2, and the highs and that I'm expecting. You got to really punch through that to get any more. So the odds really shifted dramatically, and then when the news event comes, you're off to the races. So here we're looking at the 12-minute, and again, Fari Hamzei is timer of the decade for Timer Digest. That's saying something. I really respect his work, and so for me, I'm looking at this. If I'm looking at the 12 minutes, it's telling me, okay, you've got to punch through and stay above this area if you want any more. And so this edge tells you, be careful trying to buy up here. Wait for the news event. We get the news event, and okay, you've got to really jack this back up and get through, or else this is your resistance. And then we take out the low, and we can just see how same dynamics apply. Where we get a lot of range trading, get a little punch back, higher highs. We abandoned that 203 we talked about. So in my opinion, by incorporating all of this information with other charts as well, obviously, that gives us the edge. So let's wrapping this up. Let's talk about so what is a good idea for you personally for your trading style? All right, let's review the 2-day chart just to wrap things up in our idea that each chart tells a story. And in our theme for today, lessons in anatomy, we're trying to analyze, we're trying to understand the dynamics that will give us repeatable, consistent, scalable ideas. So here's a 2-day chart, and I had talked with our team, and I post up regularly as to what I'm reading, bar by bar as it's moving, things that I'm seeing. And some have commented, I don't have the same ability that you do for intuition and seeing these things as fast as you do. And that's a function of experience and nothing more. Not that I'm smarter than them. I've just had more experience. And that's what I'm trying to do, is teach traders how to see these things, how to react, and how to not just be a one-trick pony. You want to have several things in your tool bag. And one of the things for me that I like, going back to the original question of what trade is an example, I like the half cap trade. I think that is been proven over and over to be a very reliable trade. It's not going to happen 100% of the time. And if you keep fighting it on a day where it's a rabid dog day, going away from that, you're going to get wiped out. So you have to have an uncle point in any type of trade you do. But for me, we had targets that I had called out. 323 looks like 323.5 is a key target, and 342 to 352 not ruled out. And as it turns out, we get up into that zone, we get the one finger salute, we start to come into timing. This is a 30-minute chart. And so as we get to come back and pull back, and we're hitting stops from traders that are going this way now, and we're also hitting buyers who are attempting to go long, thinking they missed the move. And all of these traders are actually getting smacked pretty good. And you can see that obviously if you go to a smaller time frame chart, and we can see the idea of coming back, and once you get a high in with bots, I'm thinking this is doable. This has got to be our primary target. Let's think 250, 350 type of a rotation. Can we come back and get that baby? And then obviously you want to hit the 225 if you can, because that's your 2-day middle. That becomes a primary target. And then can we get even further and come back to a 60 back trade? And that's where we hit, and that's when we got here. I said, okay, paid for sure. I think the low is in, because we've come back in a 2-day range 60% of the range. And that's an underlying premise in our work. If I give you 10 points, will you give me 4 or 5 or 6? And with that premise, obviously, if I give you 100 points, will you give me 40 or 50 or 60? And so that's a regression type trade. And I never know for sure whether it's going to come back and give me the 40 or the 50 or the 60 back or more. We never know. But with this solid trade, putting it into perspective with the Orbo that Pax had talked about, you've got to be able to incorporate other ideas, in my opinion, and not just Orbo. And Orbo will give you a head start, and we like the longs going in to attack that 320 to 330 to find resistance. But when you're sidelined and waiting for news and it comes back the other way, then you have to abandon that idea that just close my eyes and buy everything that's available, because it doesn't work. You want to see the dust settle. You want to see an angel get formed. And this would be your first angel that sticks and never gets beat. Right there, that one bar. And that bar is at 210. And we know unless you take out the low of that bar, that's your angel. We also know up here, looking at this, that this is your demon. That black bar right here, that its high cannot get exceeded. So we know that's our resistance for now. And the rest is history as the market trades out. So while I like the 30-second chart, Orbo, it's not the only thing that's important to me in our dynamics. So I hope this explains a little bit about some of the things that I'm looking at, helps our traders to understand more about how we put a number of things together. It's the jury system. It's not just one thing. It's not just Orbo. Orbo is one small part of, say, 30 different plays and patterns we have in our playbook, which we call the criminal handbook. So wrapping up the charts, the 1-day chart contains all the information we need when we can apply the ideas from other charts like the OTF, meaning the yearly traders with position, the monthlies, the weeklies, swing traders. But all that information will be contained in a 1-day chart, and we need to obviously reconcile each of them. So with a chart like this, although you can't see it, you've got to remember your 306, 75 was your overnight high. We break that, we're coming back into range, looking for support. Here's your rain line on a 15-minute chart, also a good proxy for maybe we're finding the bottom for now. Bounce back, and here was the middle that you needed to be aware of. So it's the dynamics of all of these that work, including the settle and the gaps, and then that 253 half gap we talked about. So each and every one of these ideas is important, not just one. And that's not to say that great traders like Fari and like Pax know this. They're not just one trick traders. But for me, the question I had been asking is, what's your favorite? I know for someone like Fari, it would be the Orbo trade. He loves the Orbo trade. He's had great success with it. So why wouldn't he master that? And that's the point. Find one or two trades that like the back of your hand, that you love that putt, or you love that 5-iron off the tee to put it into play. And the more we can find ourselves believing and having confidence in our own methodology, the easier it will be for us to consistently take profits out of the market. At least that's my belief. So wrapping up, the whole idea, in my opinion, is to incorporate a number of different things. Just like a symphony has a number of different parts, and a baseball team has different positions. We have the same idea here for both offense and defense, and so we need to include these as part of our trading dynamics. And I think one of the most important things to include with this, besides the plays and patterns, is risk and reward. We need to understand when the dynamics really change, and that, in my opinion, is one of the least talked about ideas, where, okay, we've got 5 points left to get that target, or we can come back 20 points or 30 points the other way. And I think that's one of the missing pieces that a lot of people don't really look at. They just look at, one of their favorite techniques, and instead of looking at things like risk and reward. And obviously, the most important thing is price. We get paid by price, moving away or towards our objectives, and the odds and probability all are important in part of this. And that's why I put this right on my homepage, to help traders who are new to the business understand that this is not just an easy business. It takes a lot of work and a lot of study, and truthfully, a lot of pain over the years. You're going to be wrong a lot, especially when you're learning. All right, this is E, wrapping up for traders on our team. Anybody who wants to listen, thanks for listening, and have yourself a sparkling day. Hope this helped you a little.